Hi, my name is Ashwin Moran-Ganti. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Affirmed Networks, a Microsoft company. We've been always been hearing about all the big opportunity with 5G and all of the enterprise opportunities and the new ways the network are going to be built. And this is all about the digital transformation of the operators or the mobile networks. There are several other sections that we have been recording. Some of them talk about the how we build the networks, about the cloud native technologies that we are coming up with, the automation that we are bringing to the operators. But today's session, we're going to focus on the enterprise opportunities. What are the enterprise opportunities? What can the operators offer to the enterprise? And what do Affirmed and Microsoft bring to the table? Okay. So let's get down directly to the four opportunities that I want to talk about. The first one is what we call is network edge compute. The second is edge extension. The third is private networks. And the fourth one is slice as a service. I'll go deep into each section one by one. And we'll talk about what it does mean to the enterprise, what can the operator offer, and what does Affirmed and Microsoft bring to the table. So the first one is the network edge compute. There are a lot of emerging applications which require to be running much closer to the edge of the customer. And these require either low latencies or bandwidth efficiencies. And they need to be running much closer to the network. Today, most of the traffic will go down from your mobile phones, goes to the RAN, goes to the mobile core, and then goes to the internet, and then goes to most of the applications are running on the cloud somewhere. And that's how the traffic flow is. What we want is these applications to be somehow to be running closer to the actual activity. And so that means that there needs to be a compute requirement much closer to the network. And that is what is the edge compute opportunity. If you look at where the edge is, and the edge is essentially, I'm showing you a picture wherein on one side you will have the public cloud or the regional mobile operator data center. And that is where most of the applications run today. And you typically get around 50 milliseconds of latency, and that's okay for a lot of applications. But there are a lot of emerging applications which will require a little bit lesser, which is like in the 10 to 35 milliseconds acceptable latency. And that is what we call is the edge compute at the mobile network operators aggregation center. So that is where is one of the edge network location that we are going to talk about today. And then further along, where if you require even more lesser latency, like less than 5 milliseconds, and that's going to be at the premise itself or at the tower or at the venue, and that is going to be the other location for the edge compute. So let's look at an example application like immersive gaming. Everybody has a console today at their homes. And what if you wanted to play the same games that you've been playing on the console, but you wanted to do it on your mobile phone so that you go to your vacation homes, you still can continue to access all your gaming, but not without the console. That means whatever is running on the console needs to be running somewhere on the network. And that will be a perfect location for an edge compute or edge network. As everybody knows, the mobile gaming on the soft smartphones generates about $68.5 billion, and it's going to be continuously growing. And so could be a great application which both the operators could be offering as a value added to the mobile phone subscription, and the gaming servers could be actually be located on the operator network so that the mobile traffic coming from the phones directly comes as soon as it enters the operator network at the edge of the network. It is peeled off and led to the gaming servers there. This has an amazing benefit, both as both a revenue opportunity, a best subscriber customer experience, and this is the first application that we were talking about, the network edge compute. So in summary, the mobile operators can deploy an Azure edge zone alongside the mobile core user plane at the edge of the network. And the mobile traffic that is carrying the edge workloads will be offloaded to the edge at the edge Azure edge zone. The operator provides the space and power. Azure shares revenue with the operator. The service could be co-branded, co-sold, and many other ways. And the same Azure Edge Zone can also run actually network workloads if the operator chooses to. If you go to the next picture, which shows what we are talking about, is go to any operator who has deployed a CUPS mobile core. In this case, we are showing the Affirmed mobile core, which is actually deployed in many other operators' networks. And at the same place, all you have to do is deploy an Azure Edge Zone with the carrier, and that will be hosting a lot of the edge applications. As soon as the traffic is determined that it needs to be broken out, and it is sent to the Azure Edge Zone with the carrier, and the applications are going to be running there. So all of the edge application orchestration and everything is already done, and it's going to be done from the Azure public. And this would be the first application that we wanted to introduce as an opportunity towards gaining new enterprise revenue. And by deploying an Azure Edge Zone along with an Affirmed mobile core user plane, this is one of the first services. The next one that we're going to go to is the Edge extension. Let's talk about a use case like an in-stadium instant replay. The users already have their mobile phones, but the stadium experience of the stadium owners wanted to stitch multiple videos from the fan's phone and wanted to create an immersive experience. That experience is an application, and an application could be running as close to this in the stadium premise itself, and so that all the videos that are generated from the fans are sent out, and instead of going back to the mobile network core and the public clouds, it would actually be peeled off right there and broken out, and the immersive application is created, and that is what is being viewed for the fans. This is an example where you would want an edge compute, a mobile application breakout at the premise at the actual event. The second one is quite similar. As you can now see in this world of COVID, automation is big. IoT for automation is going to be even more at a scale that we have never imagined. And a lot of these applications and optimizations for maintenance predictions, making them smarter, making the manufacturing operations more seamless, you would want faster, rapid processing, decision making at the edge of the network. Again, all you would need is the sensors, and all of these equipment which are connected with the wireless can be again broken out at the premise itself, the traffic, and fed to these rapid processing applications and decision making applications which are running at the edge of the network and can be fed and can be addressed. Another example is the first responders, public safety kind of applications, wherein technologies like facial recognition, all of these things need to be, again, running closer to where the action is happening. Instead of the video being sent to the public clouds or sent to the applications which are running in centralized data centers, could actually be using inference technologies at the edge and could be providing these kinds of services. So these are just examples of some of the reasons why an operator needs to extend his mobile network to the edge of the network, and that is where the applications need to be broken out. So let's talk about carrier edge extension. With Affirmed's CUPS technology, operators today are deploying virtualized technology in their networks. The user plane and the control plane of the mobile network are separated. And the operator can actually extend the same user plane onto the customer premise. In this time, what the operators can do is they can deploy an Azure Private Edge Zone, which can host both the carrier's user plane and can also host the edge applications like that immersive stadium experience that I just talked about, right? And by doing that, the operator is actually just extending his technology, but does not have the operational difficulties of deploying on the edge and managing these boxes on the edge. It all could be done and provided by the Azure service. So if you go to the pictorial slide here, the operator has been deploying a mobile core again, and that is what is deployed today, and he's deployed CUPS. With Affirmed, we can deploy that mobile core user plane that you see in the picture there, which could be running on the Azure Private Edge. And the private edge and the edge applications and the network function can all be orchestrated from the Azure public. So the benefits are huge to the operator. The operator can simply add a new service to his port catalog, and the applications like the manufacturing, the stadium experiences, they can simply deliver amazing customer experiences with that. So let's move on to the next one. And the next one is what is widely becoming the most popular one. It's called the private networks. So let's look at why private networks. As you can see, and we talked about, manufacturing is a sector which is going to be one of the primary focus areas for us. Azure IoT is one of the leading solutions out there. And we want to extend our leadership in that area, combined with the network too. It is going to be providing amazing results. So let's look at the manufacturing. With the automation that is going around, there are robots coming in the factories. And these robots are connected with cameras that are sensing all the things that are happening on there. And these are HD cameras. A lot of video is going to be digested and ingested, and that is going to be fed to smart applications which are running on the edge to provide guidance to the operators there. This could be, again, safety, asset management, and all of these things. So one of the important ones is like the immersive training, remote assistance, where people are getting the assistance remotely and they're able to do the diagnostics much better by watching the video on the one side with the halo lenses and be able to repair things with a lot of guidance. This kind of factory automation and oil and mine, natural public venues, everywhere there is a demand for networks which are private. They have their own RAMs, they have their own small cell, and they have full control of the network because these are actually more critical than just a consumer phone. So for the reliability, for the security, for the throughput, the amount of bandwidth that they were consuming, for low latency, they are looking to private networks. First, the market will adopt a lot of the cases where Wi-Fi is not adequate, and then eventually it's going to be also be a Wi-Fi alternative. What do mobile operators can do today? Mobile operators do have the technology, but this technology has to be simplified, automated, and so that they are able to do million sites at ease. Today, a lot of it is done centrally, and now when you distribute it, you need the automation that is necessary in order to be able to go ahead and deploy at a large scale, manage, independently monitor. So the operators have a great opportunity. And unlike Wi-Fi, it still requires an operator's skill sets. RF design is not as simple as just deploying a Wi-Fi access points. So enterprises are looking for carriers to be able to provide this managed service and get their private networks. And the operators can also have one of the biggest revenue opportunities right now. So if you go to what does Affirmed and Microsoft bringing in, so the mobile core technology, again, was available, has been deployed. We used to call it network in a box, and deployed at many locations today. This is not a new kind of a service. But what we are bringing to the table is that the original versions had a lot of manual intervention. The deployments were taking a long time. The deployments would have a lot of professional services involved there. But now what we want to be doing is you ship an Azure Private Edge Zone connected to the network. And right from your console, just from the Azure public portal, you're able to activate that public edge zone, and you're able to deploy, orchestrate all of any edge applications that are in the marketplace. And in addition to that, you're going to be able to partner with operators who are going to be offering their managed service, and that could be a private network service. And that private network service can be orchestrated by the Azure portal to be able to be deployed on the private edge zone. This way, the only manual part is shipping the server and connecting to the internet and doing the RF design. But other than that, he's able to do all of this remotely. all aspects of orchestration, lifecycle management, monitoring, and SLAs are all being able to do it from the portal. This will provide the scalability that is necessary, the ease that is necessary to be able to do millions of sites. Apparently, there are about 14 million sites which have a demand for private networks. And if each site is providing X amount of dollars per month, you can imagine what the revenue potential is going to be. So, not only this, if you go to the next picture that we are showing here, we are also combining with the operator assets. We can deal with scenarios wherein factories or manufacturing sites have multiple locations, and those locations, people, the devices, or they are going from one location to the other. You still want some sort of a simplified subscriber and policy management. Instead of having per site subscriber and policy, you would be able to do that. So we are able to accommodate and provide that kind of a service. Integrating with the operator's existing code, we're also be able to provide with roaming services. So while the devices are in the factory side, they're using the private networks, but when they roam onto the macro networks, there also the services still continues, and then they go to the next site, the service also continues. This is some of the services and innovation that Affirmed and Azure are bringing to the operator in order to provide an amazing experience for the private networks deployments for the enterprises. Now that brings us to the last of the four services, what we call is Slice as a Service. And what we are talking about is really a vertically focused mobile core as a service. Everything that I've been talking about is not new. The technology like 4G and 5G is new, but nevertheless, the operators have been doing it. What we are bringing to the table is automation, the speed and agility for the operators, and this is what we call is the digital transformation. So let's look at the mobile core overlays. The operators have been deploying cores which are dedicated to IoTs, dedicated to, let's say, the automobile sector. But the deployments today are silos, and they deploy the entire hardware, the virtualization infrastructure, they do the mobile core, and it's essentially a silo. And the reason it needs to be a silo because they need to be independently monitored and independently managed. So how do you make that even better? When you're making such an investment, you need to validate the business cases and then start to build these silos. What if it was a little bit more easier? What if it was a lesser investment and you are able to just try out and instantiate with just software, just another core, and go after new businesses, let's say drones, and just a core, mobile core dedicated to drones across the country and independently managed and monitored. And you wanted to just try it. Maybe the business case is not 100% solid. What if there was a risk-free innovation opportunity wherein you would just go to any other digital transformation which is happening in the other enterprises? They would go to the public cloud, they will be able to instantiate a mobile core and try the drone service, manage, manipulate, and grow that business. And if things don't work out, you could shut it down. That kind of agility is what we want to bring to the operators. The other important point is some of these things may take up a lot of bandwidth, a lot of servers. Some may require lesser bandwidth and lesser servers. But by bringing the cloud economics to the table, you are able to accommodate the various bandwidth needs, the server needs, the compute needs of these cores, and still be able to bring the monetary benefits to the operator. So the mobile operators, what we want is a full turnkey service from Affirmed and Azure, wherein we can provide a mobile core. The operator still owns the RAN, the customer, the brand, the ideation, all of that. All we're trying to do is the ability to instantiate a core, connect to their RAN, and then the operators offer a vertically focused MVNO service. So if you go to what was network slicing, it was all about the standards have done a lot more work. They knew about this business opportunity and they created a lot of standardization in slice management. There are several 3GPP technologies like NSSMF and NFMF. And the main goal was one size doesn't fit all. We need to be able to create multiple slices which are independently instantiated, managed, and monitored, and the ability to let them grow independently to whatever scale that they can. And that's what we want to bring. So it's a combination of the cloud technology and the 3GPP innovations that have been done. We're putting that together along with the mobile core technology that we have, offering it in a form to energize the operator offerings. So, what is Slice as a service? Slice as a service will allow the operators to disrupt the economics of innovation. And by rapidly ideating in new service slices on the cloud with very little cost, they are able to meet the diversity of requirements. Either they are latency sensitive, throughput sensitive, either for security, either for high availability, whatever may be the reason. But you will be able to do that with the most optimized cost. And all of these slices are going to be differentiated services. And this is like a pipe that addresses all the needs, but it's actually going to be one of the most intelligent connectivity options that the operator will provide, and which is going to increase the brand of the operator and with the automation that we are bringing to the table. So if you look at the next pictorial that we have, the operator starts off with deploying an Azure Edge with the carrier. Will be able to offer network compute or edge compute applications and bring in more revenue. He can use the same edge infrastructure which is deployed in the operator's network and run the 5G network functions. And that's what you will see in this picture as 5G user plane running there. You can extend the 5G user plane onto the customer prem by running an Azure private edge, and the user plane is running on the private edge. That is the carrier edge extension. And then you could also be deploying fully standalone private networks on Azure Private Edge Zone, wherein the entire mobile core with its own RAN and everything is deployed in those locations. By connecting all of these things and a control plane which is going to be running on the Azure public, you'll be able to provide all the four services that we talked about, very seamlessly. And that's the summary of the presentation here. We have talked about the four big opportunities for the operators. These are actually already deployed use cases that we have shown. May not be 5G, but with 4G. And what's coming in the near future, the automation and the cloud economics that Affirmed and Azure are bringing to the operator. What I wanted to do was take a moment and give a preview of one of the offers. Here's a private LTE demo that we're going to do. Microsoft has been putting together an ecosystem and to offer a private LTE service or a private 5G service. And private networks are not new. I mean, mobile operators have been doing that for several years. But what the opportunity right now is really the massive scale and the amount of sites, the opportunities that are coming to the service providers. So they would want a lot of automation, and that is the key. How fast can you deploy? And with remote deployment of thousands of these networks, how do you manage them? How do you make sure that there is no truck rolls necessary in order to diagnose some problems or upgrade some things or manage any issues? So it's all about automation. And so with this Affirm technology in conjunction with the Microsoft technology is what is the automation that we are going to demo here. So imagine that a service, an enterprise customer has already got an Azure private edge zone, and he's got that from the marketplace, and he's be able to run enterprise applications on that platform. The enterprise applications could be something like an IoT gateway or any AI ML reference applications. Enterprise sees a need for a private network, and he goes to and buys an MSP offer. MSP is the operator, a managed service provider, either from the managed service provider's website or his promotions or from the Azure's marketplace. Once you do that, the MSP is going to be going to the Azure portal and is going to be able to instantiate a private network service. And he will use the Affirm Service Manager to deploy onto the Azure Private Edge Zone. And he will be able to do all the operations from the portal. and should be able to do monitoring and get the private networks up and running. So let's go through that sequence here. If you start off, assume right now that the enterprise has reached out to the operator, and the operator goes to the Azure portal right now. And from here, he's going to start this Azure Network Function Manager, and he's going to create a network 2, and he's going to create this device. It happens, and he uses an Affirmed packet core. It could be any of those packet cores. Azure has been pretty open to support other vendors' solutions also. And then we go ahead and review this instantiation of this virtual network function. It contains all of the MMEP gateway HSS. And once the virtual instance is created, what you'll be able to see is a small service key is actually going to be generated on the Azure portal. The service key is on the second column there. And once you pick it up, you will go to the service manager. And you can add all your enterprises and multiple sites, and go ahead and we'll add a network 2 here, and basically just a site and the service key which you just created. This is what is linking the virtual network function, which is the entire private network mobile core, to this private edge box or the private edge cloud. And you are able to go ahead and provision that. And once you click on that, and right now the VNF state is unknown and it's not provisioned yet. This is a sample of all of the provisioning details. We have an automated version, but I just want to show that a lot of flexibility is there to be able to configure these things. And I just don't want to say that it's just click and you feel like, oh, there's not many options provided. And there are options provided. For simplicity case, you can make it fewer options or more options. And then we go ahead and get that started. It's still not in a provision state right now. And then you can see that, yes, now the network 2 is a success and it's provisioned. So now your private network is actually deployed. And what you can now further do is provision the SIM file. So if you have an existing SIM management platform, or you can pick a SIM management platform from the marketplace. But for now, we will just take that you have a SIM management platform, the SIM files are taken out, and you can use that to configure the subscriber management system, which is actually deployed on the private network. And once that is there, your private network is up and running, all your devices now have connectivity, and you're able to now just monitor the network. You can also create custom dashboards on this one. You create some of these dashboards so that you can provide some views to the enterprise so that he can see what the status of his private network is and if things are working well or if there's any glitches. And that's how we provide a simple automated private network deployment, management, and monitoring. In order to learn more about monetizing the enterprise services, go to affirmednetworks.com or reach out to your account teams for more information on how to leverage the edge compute, carrier edge extension, private networks, and slices as a service. Thank you for your time.